The Honest to God series with Aingeal Rose and Ahonu.
You are all very, very welcome. I am Ahonu, and with me is my lovely Aingeal Rose.
People are demanding answers.
Basically exposing the truth.
For us to explore in more detail today.
This is the time period of truth being exposed, of all the unhealed stuff coming out.
So make sure you tune in. You can subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher Radio,
and on our website at worldofempowerment.com.
Don't miss an episode. Hit the subscribe button now.
Good morning, everybody. This is Aingeal Rose, coming to you from Bend, Oregon again. And I'm alone today doing this while Ahonu is still recovering from his head cold, which, of course, if you know, when you get a head cold, your voice doesn't work right and you're nasally and you're sounding funny. So he didn't want to come on the air sounding like that. So here I am today, and I want to talk today about a Course in Miracles lesson that he read to me last week. And the lesson was called, "Forgiveness is my function as the light of the world." I first need to tell you that the Course's interpretation of forgiveness is not what we normally think of. The Course does not believe that anybody does something to us and then we forgive. The Course is really clear that it does not believe in victims. Okay, so its interpretation of forgiveness is something quite different. It's talking about changing our perception about what we see in the world. Indeed, changing our perception about the world or changing our perceptions about ourselves as just a person in a body. Okay, so its definition of forgiveness is that we are shifting our minds away from illusions and bringing them back to the truth that we are eternal spirits and that this is really who we are. Okay, so in this lesson, forgiveness is my function as the light of the world. It does a few things. It tells you what we're here for, and how many times have I had the question, being an Akashic record reader, of somebody calling me up and saying, what is my purpose? What am I here for? What did I contract to do when I came in? And of course, there's various levels of those answers for people individually. However, we're talking about the big picture of what does it mean that forgiveness is your function. Okay, it means that our job is to really shift the perception in the world away from guilt and blame and punishment and deserving and who's worthy and who's not. All the perceptions that tell us that we deserve anything other than complete happiness and goodness. Any other thought besides that is an illusion in the Course's view. It talks about God's will for us being perfect happiness. And what does that mean? What it means is that you have to come from a place where you know 100% that all that you deserve is goodness. All you deserve is happiness. That your life is meant to be a happy dream. All right, so when we say forgiveness is my function as the light of the world, another thing in that statement is it acknowledges you as the light of the world, which means that you are light. You are holiness. And I think we did do a talk one time of another realization I had where another way of saying the same thing is that you're composed of water and the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit being the holiness of you, not some outside spirit someplace, but your spirit is holy. That's your Holy Spirit. that you're composed of that. You're made of that and nothing else. So to say that forgiveness is your function as the light of the world says that you have the power in your mind and your consciousness to look out upon the world and forgive or undo any thought that is contrary to perfect love and acceptance. And here's another way of explaining the same thing. Oftentimes, Ahonu and I would do some quantum jumping classes where you take people into an alpha state and they go to another dimension to meet an alternate self of theirs. But sometimes we would take people to Paradise Earth. Paradise Earth being a reality of Earth going on right now that is perfectly happy. And what does that look like? What does it feel like? What goes on there? So we take people into another dimension of the earth where they can experience that, see what that feels like. But in those realities, in that reality of Paradise Earth, what you find is that the main thing is everyone is totally loved and accepted. No matter who they are, they're welcomed with open arms. There is nothing that is seen in the person that is any kind of condemnation. And here's another example of it. Ahonu and I, for some years, were making mother tinctures out of sacred places. This was a mission guided by Spirit. And one of the places we were asked to go and make up sacred water was at St. Brigids' grave in Ireland. I actually forgot right now where the location was, but anyway, we went and we made a water essence from St. Brigids' grave. Well, when we were leaving, probably 10 minutes after we left, we got this healing. He got his own healing, and I got a healing. And this was before we even took the essence. We didn't even drink any of it. We just had made it. But I had an experience of St. Brigid showing me a royal palace. And in the vision, I was walking into this royal palace with a little bit of trepidation about, was I a commoner? I was walking into this royal place. Was I going to be cast out? What was going to happen to me? And what happened was St. Brigid put this ball of love. It came in through the top of my head. It went down through my body and anchored itself in my womb area. And what she said to me was, you could never be condemned. And I had a tangible, physical experience of it. And why it was so important that it ended up in that particular part of my body was because I had had a miscarriage one time and an ectopic pregnancy. And I had, at the time, I was thinking that the miscarriage must mean that I wasn't good enough in God's eyes to have a baby. And it's just one of the judgments that you go to when you go through something like that. You start to wonder, why me? Why am I going through that? And therefore, I had some scar tissue in that area. So not only did she let me experience the innocence of myself, but that following week, I had scar tissue dissolve in my body and I eliminated it. And that was just from St. Brigid telling me, yes, you are royalty. Yes, you could never be condemned. Yes, you're welcomed into the palace, into the kingdom. And that was such a powerful experience for me because we all do this judgment thing so much to ourselves. And it could be a fleeting emotion. It could be how you feel in any situation that's going on that isn't entirely happy. So when it says forgiveness is my function as the light of the world, it means that we have the power in our minds to look at things without those sorts of judgments, without the belief in condemnation. That when God says to you, you deserve only good, and you have to shift your mind to believing that 100% only good can come to you and everybody else. And if we could look out and know that that's true for everybody, for the world, and see everything from that perspective, then we are forgiving or undoing the negative ego thought system which pervades the world. All the belief in guilt, all the belief in judgment and punishment and inadequacy and not being good enough and all of those things that we do to ourselves, anytime you're confused and you get down on yourself or you have a hard time with something, all of those perceptions that we must have done something wrong. And you see it too when you watch people who are close to dying, that they may think, well, I've lived a pretty good life, but then when they get close to the point of death, they start to wonder, well, maybe not. What happens when I meet my maker? Am I wrong about myself? Am I going to find out that I wasn't as good as I thought? So all these worries that we have and all of these kinds of thoughts and opinions about ourselves, they are scarcity thoughts. In other words, they equal scarcity. So when we go through scarcity, we also think that we must not be as lucky as somebody else, or we must not be as deserving or as good or qualified as somebody else who might be receiving more prosperity. But scarcity really is the belief that you don't deserve absolute happiness. And this has to be a total thing that occurs in your mind. So when you say forgiveness is your function, it means your function is to undo any thought or belief that is contrary to perfect love, perfect happiness, perfect joy, and perfect abundance. I just wanted to share that with you so that you can be reassured that God's will for you is perfect happiness and nothing else.
You have been listening to Aingeal Rose and Ahonu on World of Empowerment Radio, your station for practical spirituality in a changing world.